Animals with nocturnal vision are normally active during the night. They normally have bigger eyes than humans do and normally have pupils that open more widely in low light. This allows the nocturnal eyes to gather more light than human eyes do in the dark. One problem that nocturnal animals face is that their eyes are extremely sensitive in bright lights, so they must be protected during the day. They can do this by having a retractable eye flap, or others rely on the dilation of their pupils. Most nocturnal animals are equipped with a tapetum. A tapetum is a mirror membrane that reflects light that has already passed through the retina, back through the retina a second time, giving the light another chance to strike the light-sensitive rods in the nocturnal animal's eyes. When the light passes through the animal's pupil, it's then focused onto the lens and then passed on to the retina, which is then connected to the brain by the optic nerve. The retina is a very complex structure in the eye and is also made up from 10 different layers. The retina has more sensory nerve cells than anywhere else in the body. In the retina, there are two different kinds of light receptive cells, rods and cones. Cones work with bright lights and register detail, while rods work with low lights, detecting motion and basic information. The rods in nocturnal animals become specialized, which allows them to see so well in the dark. Some nocturnal animals like bats and snakes don't actually have any cones and only rods to see. However, most nocturnal animals only have a few cones and rely on their rods in their eyes to see in the dark. Some nocturnal animals like frogs and toads only have to have one photon to hit their photoreceptors to gain an image. This means that they would react really slowly, as they would only be seeing an image every 4 seconds. Diurnal animals are animals that are active during the day. This means their eyesight is adapted to the bright lights during the daytime. When light rays reflect off an object, it enters the eye through the cornea. The cornea then reflects light, which is then sent through the pupil. The iris, which surrounds the pupil, opens and closes, making the pupil bigger or smaller, which allows more or less light to go through. The light rays then pass through the lens, which changes the shape and also bends it to the retina. The retina is at the back of the eye and is filled with millions of teeny light-sensitive nerves. These nerves are called rods and cones. The cones are based at the centre of the retina. They are used to see bright lights and also provide a clear, sharp central vision and detects colour and detail. The area that the cones are concentrated in the centre of the retina is known as the macula. Rods are located outside of the macula and extend all the way to the outer edge of the retina. The rods allow our eyes to detect motion and help us see in dim and low light and even at night. However, diurnal animals cannot see as good as nocturnal animals during the night, as nocturnal animals are much more reliant on their specialized rods. These cells in the retina convert light into electrical impulses. The optic nerve then sends the impulses to the brain, which allows the animals to produce an image of what they're seeing. This is the process that diurnal animals go through to see images during the day. Animals that use binocular visions can see in 3-dimensional shapes, which allows them to see in much more detail. Animals that use binocular visions normally have their eyes located on the top of their head. However, animals with binocular visions have a smaller field of vision, which means they can't see as much around them as other animals would. Most animals with binocular vision are known as predators. This is because it helps them focus on to their prey items so they can hunt them, and they also don't have as much field as vision as it's not needed, as they aren't going to be hunted by other animals. This could also be seen as a disadvantage, as some animals with binocular vision are actually predators but are prey to other animals, meaning they can't see if they're being hunted from behind, as this is their blind spot. The second type of vision, known as monocular vision, is found in animals like rabbits, deers, cows, and guinea pigs. This gives them a larger field of view, as they are most likely to be hunted down as prey items, so they must be on guard and watch. However, they do have a blind spot at the front of their head and at the back, as their eyes are found on the side of their head.
Echolocation is a biological sonar used by animals to emit high-pitched calls to the environment and listen to the echoes to locate and identify objects around them. This can be used for navigating or for foraging. For example, it is notably used in bats to move safely in the darkness and look for food. They usually hunt at night, so echolocation allows them to locate a niche containing many insects. Microbats can generate an ultrasound through the larynx, their voice box, and emit the sound through their mouth or nose. They can then estimate the interference patterns reflecting from the tragus, which is the skin in the external ear. Some bats also develop a fleshy growth around the jaw to help control ultrasound pulses to scan a wide area. They have very large, sensitive ears to listen for these echoes. The frequencies can range from 11 kHz to 212 kHz, depending on the different prey and environment. For example, the spotted bat uses the frequency of 12.7 kHz, which cannot be heard by moths in order to hunt them. This is efficient because if a moth picks up on the sounds emitted by a bat, it may drop to the ground or fly erratically to avoid being eaten. Scientists have determined that the bats have evolved mutations of the protein prestin, which affects the sensitivity of hearing. This was also found in dolphins. Dolphins also use echolocation by sending out high-frequency clicking sounds from the organ melon and through moving air between nasal sacs in the blowhole area to produce sound. The melon is adipose tissue in the forehead, allowing them to produce biosonar to locate objects around them and navigate safely. The pulses pass through the melon, which focuses the sound waves into a beam and projects it into the water. The waves will then bounce off objects and return as an echo, which are usually received in the fat-filled areas in the lower jawbones. These can then conduct the sounds to the middle and inner ear, and then use the auditory nerve to reach the hearing areas in the brain in the form of nerve impulses. From this, the dolphin can interpret the size, shape, distance, direction, and speeds of the objects around. Dolphins can learn the specific signatures returned by different species of prey. The Commerson's dolphins produce narrow band pulses of 125 to 135 kHz, which is out of frequency range for other dolphins and for humans. These are useful for identifying objects in the sea floor, which adapts to the prey they eat. Sound travels 4.5 times faster in water than in air, so the dolphins have adapted their brains to make a quick analysis of information given by the returning echoes. The ears are separated from the skull and are held in foam-filled cavities outside the skull, allowing the dolphin to localize sound, which is important for echolocation.
Sharks. Like humans, sharks have the sense of smell, sight, hearing, taste and touch. However, their sensory organs are specifically adapted to their underwater habitat. Smell. Sharks have a very well-developed sense of smell. They can smell traces of blood from kilometres away. The olfactory senses are in the short duct between the top and bottom nasal openings or nostrils, which are on the underside of the nose or snout. The nostrils are used only for smelling, not for breathing. Sight. The shark's eyes are especially adapted to its dark habitat. Unlike most other fish, the shark is able to dilate and contract its pupils to allow different amounts of light in, creating a clear picture. Sharks can also see in colour. Hearing. It is thought that the sharks may have a well-developed sense of hearing. Their ears consist of small holes on the sides of their head, which leads directly into the inner ear. The lateral line is also a sound detector and is linked to the environment via the lateral line pores. They are particularly good at hearing low frequency noises and finding out from where a noise is coming. Taste. Unlike humans, the taste buds of a shark are situated throughout its mouth and opposed onto its tongue. Sharks use electroreception to sense where the prey is and where the danger lies. This is achieved by means of electromagnetic field receptors. It can also sense the electromagnetic fields of animals hidden beneath the sand. This also assists with direction. The lateral line again comes into play in the sense that it helps the shark sense water vibrations. Stingrays. Stingrays have extremely strong senses. They have an excellent sense of smell, hearing, touch, and they have incredible eyesight. Their ears are tiny openings on top of their heads with hair-like cells in the inner ear that detect sound vibrations. Their eyes are also at the top of their heads. They give them a view of the organisms above them while they are hidden under the sand. Since their eyes are on top of their heads, they have to rely on the sense of smell, touch, and other special senses to find food. They have a closed lateral line system that they can sense small jets of water pressure. They give off small jets of water that strike the raised surface around the system that allows the stingray to feel moving current. This sense then leads them to the prey. Stingrays also have electrical activity leads them to their prey. Electrical activity in muscles and electrical charges in the body fluid gives all animals a weak electrical field of energy. Stingrays are able to sense their electrical signals and fluids hidden organisms in the sand beneath them. Stingrays breathe by taking water into their spiracles and then releasing it out of their gill slits. The spiracles are located behind their eyes and in their gill slits are on the lower surface. Stingrays do not have a swim bladder, nor do they have a large liver with oils to give them buoyancy, so they sink, they do not swim. Stingrays have pectoral fins that form a flattened disc that allows them to swim and glide for long distances. Since stingrays have less buoyancy, it allows them to hide under the sand and stay stationary for a long period of time. Gliding and lying on the seafloor helps stingrays conserve energy, which means they do not have to eat as often as they should do.